Welcome to the Only Finance Podcast. I'm your host, Minh Vo. I'm here with Cristiano, one of our advisors. And, today we're going to chit chat and connect and, discuss the advisor transition. So, I'll let Brett introduce himself and, kind of tell us a little about himself and kind of go from there.
Sure. So I, way back in the day, thought I was going to be an accountant, got an intermediate accounting, and, realized how rough of a career that was, and ultimately decided to go the route of finance. And I finished undergrad and kind of saw the recession in '08 and how bad that hurt everybody, and decided, hey, you know what? I think this is a career for me as far as looking into financial planning. And I think I was the second person you ever hired there back at Mast.
Yeah.
Some 11, 12 years ago. I think there are definitely a lot of pros to starting off in that broker-dealer world. But I think we had a lot of success together working over there, and worked my way up to kind of lower management, and built a nice book of business over the years. Worked with a lot of wonderful, nice people. But at a certain point in that broker-dealer world, you kind of start to see some of the flaws in the system, some of the issues there, as far as either the firm not doing everything they need to be doing, or just not moving as fast as they need as far as keeping up with the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
And it got to the point, too, where just kind of everything from just basic office politics to realizing there was a bit of a ceiling there, and then also just getting frustrated with systems and processes, man. I don't know if you experienced that, too, over the years back in the day. So.
Of course, yeah. So let's talk about making the jump.
Okay. So
what's your number one? What was your number one fear?
First thing you got to figure out, hey, am I ready to do it? And no one's like totally ready. I think you'd almost describe it almost like, marriage or having a baby. You're never 100% ready.
Never.
Right? But in the back of your mind, you say, hey, this is the right thing for me to do for myself and my family for the long run. That's never a decision you make instantly, right? It's going to be over a period of a couple months or a couple years. And I was with the same firm for 10 years before I made that jump. But, a couple of things had gone wrong to the point where, I just realized I can't stand this environment anymore. And, you start to look at your options. We reconnected, and I really realized that the RIA world was probably the best route for me for the long run there, as far as in the client's best interest, and then some of the systems and processes that come with that, as far as working with companies like Charles Schwab. So,
yeah.
But as far as the emotions go, right, it's on D-Day, right, when you're sitting there walking into the boss's office, handing in your letter of resignation, there's a lot that goes through your mind there, right, as far as, you're almost sad to walk away from a place you've been working for 10 years, but you're also excited for what's new, like, hey, is the grass really greener on the other side? And I can fortunately say, being a year and change into this, yes it is, for those of you that are thinking about it. But also it's as a case of, you are a little worried here as far as, hey, I'm kind of taking a leap of faith here into the unknown. And I think that is hard for most people to do, right? So it does take some time to kind of process those emotions, but right, you hand in your resignation, you tell them thanks for everything, and you get to work though, right? Because the minute you hand that stuff in, you're going back to your new office, and you're saying, all right, it's go time, right? As far as starting to move accounts and get in touch with everybody. And, thank goodness in our environment we didn't have a non-compete, so that helped make things a little bit easier there. But I think as far as the biggest thing you're worried about in that first probably like 30 to 60 days is, how smooth or how quickly is this going to go? And working with someone like you guys, and then working with Schwab too, as far as the preparation that goes with that. Once I'd moved 10 million in 10 days, I kind of felt the butterflies start to subside there, and I slept a little bit better each night, and I stopped driving my wife crazy. Too.
Yeah, I mean, we got it. 10 days is lightning fast. So what do we get, like 150 accounts open or something like that?
Yep. So
quick, easy transition. But I guess, when you say drive your wife crazy, what was the thoughts? What were the thoughts?
What do you mean?
Like, what were you thinking about?
So I think it's a case of where you're, when you're going through that transition process, for a short period of time, you are kind of thinking about all business all the time, as far as starting to, not like, dropping other responsibilities in life or anything, but you're so focused on just making sure you get everything done and do it the right way the first time that, you're talking about business all the time. And I think that can definitely drive your spouse a little, a little nuts when you get to a certain point there. So, but that subsides pretty quickly there.
Cool. What is the biggest surprise about making the jump to dropping your Series 7 and all that other stuff and leaving the broker-dealer world? What's been the biggest surprise for you?
Well, it's a little weird, right? Because you work so hard to pass that exam in the first place, and you say, "What? I'm going to give this thing. I'm not going to touch this thing for the next 30 years." Okay. So there's a little bit of a leap of faith there, but I think you realize that it's just not necessary, right? As far as acting on the client's best interest, and as far as doing business the right way for the long run.
Okay. And what was the biggest surprise of just leaving the broker-dealer world and joining the RIA world?
Oh my gosh. I would say ease of systems and processes. I used to spend 30 minutes on a brokerage application, and now it takes less than 5. It's amazing as far as how easy things should and could work in that RIA world.
Right.
I think that's the big one. And then on the compliance side, I think you learn in the broker-dealer world to some extent. I get that there's some measures that are necessary there to protect the clients and the firm and make sure we're making the right recommendations, but they drown you in paperwork, and it's just and the systems and processes. A lot of times it's like Frankenstein systems, pulling something from over here to over here, and then you get to cut and paste and put it all together yourself. And one little error, you get to go redo it. One of the things I love working with you guys in Schwab is when there's a problem, it gets fixed typically in 5 minutes or less, instead of having to go do everything all over again, have the client redo something, and then wait a week and hope and pray that it was done correctly.
Right, right.
So I think on the compliance side, they work with you a little bit more instead of just communicating with you through email. And there's a little bit more personality behind it, and I feel like they have a vested interest in my success.
Okay. What do you miss about the old life?
I would say the only thing that's a little different that I do miss is, I used to hang around 15, 20 advisors a year. So as far as culture standpoint, right, I'm not hanging with the gang all day, every day.
Yeah.
But I got a pretty good group, a couple guys to hang out with, and I still keep in touch with some of the old guys, and I enjoy spending time with my clients. And I spend a lot of that time that I would spend with advisors, spending that with my family now. So I would argue that's a better quality of life, right? I'm dropping my kids off at school almost every day. I pick them up whenever I want to or whenever my wife needs to, and there's no argument about it. It's just like, hey, I'll be there, babe. I got it.
Yeah.
So, and when it comes to responsibilities too, I'm pretty happy that I don't feel like my calendar is booked solid 40, 50 hours a week. I feel like if I need to take a day for myself, like I just did like last weekend, took Friday off without even thinking about it, and not having to call anybody or let anybody know. Yeah. And it's just, hey, I'm going to spend some time with my wife, and I have some us time. I thought that was great.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, right? Your only loyalty is to your clients. Mm-hmm. And that's the best part. Like we were talking to somebody else, there's no split loyalty. There's nobody else you're looking out for, mm-hmm. right? Just the client, right? And that's probably the best part to me. So talk about the change and how you feel about, not that you weren't trying to do what's within your best interest, but there was always some pressure mm-hmm. to look out for somebody else's interests in addition to your client's interests.
Yeah, right. As far as either the firm recommending certain products or for certain circumstances, instead of maybe making sure that you are properly looking out amongst the whole market for solutions. It's nice to not have somebody almost not maybe looking over your shoulder, but having to do certain things in order to keep your job.
Right.
That's not an issue anymore, and that is a weight off your shoulders as far as knowing I'm always doing the right thing for the client at all times, and not ever having to have an internal conversation there.
Right. You don't have to apologize to yourself, right? Mm-hmm. As financial professionals and finance people, you can do math in your head very quickly on everything, pretty much, right? And sometimes you got to make these decisions in your head and going, well, how does this work for, my loyalty to the company, right? Let's talk about, when you made the transition, what was the hardest thing?
I think the hardest thing is you're taking a blind leap of faith, right? As far as leaving everything you know behind, and there's what people say is what everybody tells you, whether you meet them at conferences or MDRT or just talking at networking events over the years. Most people say, hey, yeah, it's so much better, but you don't know until you've gone through it.
Exactly. I would agree with that. I mean, heck, when I made the transition, right? More of a forced transition. But, when I made the transition, it's like, this is not real, right? You've heard stories about how easy it is, how great it is, how much, people are doing, how much better their life is. And you're like, that can't be real, right? What I know here is real. And then when you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, it really is that real. So that's always interesting. In terms of preparation to make that jump, right? Obviously, without them breaking any rules and violations and regulations, what should an advisor do to be prepared to move to an RIA if they're going to want to do that?
Yeah, well, part of it depends on what firm you're coming from, as far as what are the rules, where do you draw the line as far as what you can and can't take with you. But
so let's not talk about what the information, but
okay.
I'm talking about just like your mental preparation, your preparation for your business, all that stuff.
I think it's kind of like when I play ice hockey too. It's almost like preparing for the big game, right? You were calling it their D-Day, like I called it earlier. It's at the end of the day, I think it's human nature to only think about the negative scenarios, right? As far as what could go wrong and how can I, deal with this situation, just X, Y, or Z scenario if this happens. But I lost my train of thought there. Where's
that? Game plan. Game plan?
So I think having an actual game plan, just like what's his name was talking earlier about having an actually well thought out business plan, right? Have you actually taken the time to take pen to paper, almost like we do with our clients, and draw out a blueprint for exactly what you want to happen?
Yeah.
And I think actually, like, even from like a calendar standpoint, I noticed myself doing that in the first couple weeks, as far as, hey, what exactly do I need to have happen on every exact day, as far as that kind of week or two leading up to it, and that probably 3 or 4 weeks thereafter. Every day, I knew exactly what I needed to knock out, as far as contacting certain people or taking care of certain little bitty day-to-day tasks, or just making sure I had all my ducks in a row in any capacity you can think of. And I think too, also taking care of myself, right? Because mental health, I think we've all done a pretty good job in the last 3 or 4 years here since COVID of taking better care of ourselves, and especially men. Right, let's be honest. Right, I think kind of people either overlooked the circumstances that men dealt with, but we're actually addressing it these days. So I think that's wonderful, as far as taking some time for yourself and clocking out mentally, and just making sure too that I think it's not a bad idea to have somebody to go to talk to about anything that's kind of on your mind or anything that you're struggling with. Right, you don't want to just push it down and say I'll think about it later.
Yeah. So when you think about the transition, of the things that we helped you with as a firm, what was the positive for it? What did you like about the transition?
Well, I think it was kind of fun. Just right after I resigned, all sitting down at the table there, and we're all working together as far as a little bit of a team atmosphere there. I think that was great. But I think, because it was just such an easy process. I think that's one of the things that people don't realize until you go through it is, hey, at the end of the day, if you've done your preparation, if you've taken care of your clients, right, you don't have to worry about them, whether they're going to come with you or not.
Yeah.
It's, hey, as long as you take care of them, they're going to take care of you too. So.
Okay. I guess then, what was the things that you felt could have been better?
What could have been better? Let's see here.
Because I don't want to just paint sunshine and rainbows, right?
I think as far as just a couple odds and ends there, as far as for a couple of processes for certain types of accounts and stuff like that, if I would have felt more comfortable if I knew exactly how it worked before we're sitting there at the table together. As far as if we're having to piece together DocuSigns or getting limited powers of attorney and stuff like that, I think understanding what that process looks like for those certain types of accounts, kind of the one-off type things, would make people feel a little bit more comfortable. I think, for example, like 529 plans, right? We typically don't keep those at Schwab, right? We keep those at another firm because the process is much easier and it's easier to keep an eye on them for clients.
Yeah.
And I think making sure too that we have the appointments with all the little firms prior to that transition. I think that would help a little too.
Yeah. No, I would agree with all that actually. Let's see, what else is there? The only other question I think I would say is, for those who are on the fence, they're on the sidelines, they're going, I want to go. I want to make the move to an RIA. Mm-hmm. Your advice to them?
Yeah. Okay. So, I think almost like if you're in a bad relationship, you got to look out in the future. 5 years from now, if you stay with this firm, what's that going to look like?
Yeah.
Are you going to feel like you're in the same place, treading water, or like what was it, Sisyphus that pushes the boulder up the wall, I forget which who that is. All right, we push the boulder up the mountain every day, and it rolls back down. But you just feel like you're not making any progress. And at the end of the day, are you really happy? Are you going to be happy 5 years from now compared to what could be? And I think most people would be happier in the long run making that leap to independence. If you're really, really mulling it over, you kind of already made your decision. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you don't dismiss it immediately, then you need to probably sit down and have some conversations with those people.
Yeah. So for me, I would say a couple of resources. It's interesting. Charles Schwab has a really interesting podcast about making the leap. It's literally called Making the Leap, I think. It's a really interesting kind of listen. And I used it to kind of calm my nerves when I made the transition, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say as a resource is, talk to the other RIAs. You can just call them on the phone. Honestly, somebody called me out the blue and said, hey, man, I work at Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, Mass Mutual, UBS, Northwestern Mutual. I want to open my own RIA. What do you think? I'd give them the full 180, right? There's nothing in it for me, right? But I would just pick up the phone, maybe call somebody that's in your area, or get referred to somebody who's an RIA or whatever the situation is, or look them up on LinkedIn or whatever the situation is. Just go, hey, can I just call you for 5 minutes and ask you a question or two, right? I think most people would love that idea. And I did that, right? I did that, and I talked to a couple of RIAs. And then, even as we're making decisions today on software or things that we need to do in the firm, I don't pretend to know everything about being an RIA, right? And so what I do is I just pick up the phone and call and ask somebody and go, hey, I know you use XYZ company. What do you think, right? Mm-hmm. So for you, what were some resources that you used?
Well, I think for the most part, it was really word of mouth as far as talking to other people that have either made the leap and started their own company, or the memories I have from talking to people over the years that had done it at different conferences and whatnot. And I think too, just doing your own homework as far as reading some articles. I think that's a great way to go. That's Schwab one you recommended. I think that's not a bad way to go. Plenty of books and stuff out there too, but I think the word of mouth is where you really start to get that confidence as far as just sitting down, having a cup of coffee with somebody or a quick phone call.
Yeah, yeah. So. Especially when they don't have a dog in the hunt, right? Mm-hmm. So awesome. All right. Well, other than that, Brett, I think that's it. Anything else you want to add to this conversation about making the transition to an RIA?
I guess the only other thing would be as far as like CRM system. I think that's one of the things that I really like about working with you guys is it's a little bit easier to deal with. You guys have done a good job of kind of customizing that and building that out. And obviously there's always room for improvement as far as things to do with automating. But I think that goes a long way as far as just trying to make your life easier on a day-to-day, from a day-to-day standpoint. Having a good CRM system, that's something you really want to think about and definitely ask around about.
Yeah, we both at our previous firms know.
Yeah, when you hire a Fortune 500 company to be your CRM and they get 2/3 of the way through building it and they're like, and no one's happy, that's not a good sign, right?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's hilarious how bad they are at doing that stuff. But no faults of their own. Giant corporations are hard to move. They're slow-moving human beings. They're slow-moving organisms. So organizations, I mean. So, all right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to connect.
Yeah,
hopefully some of the other advisors give you a call. And they'll reach out to you and kind of hear about this and kind of go from there.
Cool.
Awesome.